the connections are the most valuable resource that you have, right? Your relationships, a relationship to yourself, to your resources, to your problems, to your opportunities, to your friends, your family, your social network. Everything is relationships. And the quality of your relationship is limited by your communication skills and skills of understanding. So the better you are at understanding yourself, that is the window into understanding other people.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big, like, when I say like we live in two different worlds, like the biggest problem in my opinion, and that's what it sort of seems like, is something like self-centeredness, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to sort of see the world just through your lens, and you don't really care how other people see it. And, you know, obviously this is a huge problem, right? So one solution, and, you know, obviously we were talking about this before the podcast, but, you know, there's this philosophy in Buddhism, and we're both pretty big Buddhist guys that sort of believe that this belief in I is kind of like the biggest problem in and of itself, like the fact that you have an I, because really what you're doing when you go and listen to somebody, right, and you really start to learn their language, is you're not really just sitting there and as yourself learning someone's language, you're sort of immersing yourself in them, right? Trying to put yourself in their shoes, trying to understand what they think. You know, that's the whole purpose of mind reading. So do you think that's sort of what it is, or it's more of, you know,
kind of, yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
We could take a lifetime to unpack. There's two angles I want to take with it. First one, to the power of mind reading, and the second one, I'm going to blow your mind with the Buddhism stuff. So first one, the power of being a mind reader isn't that I can read minds. The real power is that on an instinctual level, everybody knows that they're going to die. They are the only ones who know that they're alive. Take that to its logical conclusion. That's kind of psychopath level, right? Like, I'm the only one that knows I'm real, so I can torture other people, and it's not bad because they're not really people. So we're not going that far. It's just that you are locked inside your own brain. You're locked inside your own experience, and you can't ever really know that there's another person out there. So we kind of go our whole lives by ourselves. Even when we're surrounded by friends and family, we're still locked into our own experience. So that is profoundly lonely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is kind of the deepest seated issue of being alive, that we're alive by ourselves the whole time.
So how does that relate to the fact that you can die? I missed that link.
Because you're going to die alone too. You're the only one that's going to die. I can't die for you. That guy dying doesn't help me with realizing that I'm going to die, that this whole ride is going to come to an end, and I will have gone through all of it by myself.
Okay, so that makes you feel like you're all alone, essentially.
From birth to death, we do it ourselves.
And that's the creation of I, because you're like, all right, I guess I'm me and I'm alone.
Right. I'm the only one that I know is me. I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
And it's only me. Okay. Mentalism tells you what you're already thinking.
Okay.
And what that does is it reinforces that just maybe you can be seen, that there could be another person that witnesses you as you, that bridges that gap of a lifetime of loneliness, that there's no other way. Like the only way that he could do what he does is to know what I'm thinking. And if he can know what I'm thinking, I can be known.
Yeah.
I can be seen. I can die knowing that somebody saw me while I was alive. And that is such a rare experience. It is vanishingly rare.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why it's so powerful. So it's not that I'm special. It's not that I have superhero skills. People love what I do because of how it makes them feel.
So people have spent their whole entire lives not essentially being understood, you know, like I live in a world that everyone else is also fighting for their own good, and there's too much overlap between our worlds. You know, if I told you my ideologies and you told me your ideologies, we'd have some sort of difference, and because we have that sort of difference, we're essentially living two completely different lives, of course, right? Two completely different worlds. So you're saying that you're taking a step into their world,
right? And then giving them quote unquote proof that they have been witnessed. And then that is stunning to them, because that happens never.
Yeah.
So then when a professional can just show up and be like, all right, guys, for the next 70 minutes, we're going to get to know each other in ways you've never thought possible. And they're like, oh, that's nice. And then I start telling them about their childhood, and they're like, holy crap, like what? That's why it's stunning what I do.
Wow. So what's the reaction to that? So, all right.
Stunned silence. People start crying. Like it is such a profoundly emotional experience. And it is for me too. Like being able to facilitate that kind of experience with people is that's a lot of power to be toying with. So if you're stepping into that kind of environment in the wrong headspace, you're going to spiral out real quick.
So there was this one story I heard a few years ago. It was one of the ladies I had on my podcast. She was a shaman, you know, went down to like Peru and all that stuff. And as she was going on her journey, essentially, she brought her husband along with her. And this was just in the preceding phases. He never went down to Peru, but she's learning about all this stuff. And one day her husband just wakes up, like, you know, not physically wakes up, but wakes up. And he says, holy crap, I was abused so bad when I was a child. I was abused to the point where my dad left me in the attic when I was 6 years old, all beaten up and bloody and bruised. And then my mom saw me the next morning, pulled me out, and then hid me from my sister so that my sister didn't ask questions, and locked me in there for a week until my bruises healed. And I used to go into the woods to be able to just get away from my family. And even on Christmas, my dad would get drunk and, you know, break the toys that we had and use the plastic to, you know, to sear into my skin and like all this crazy stuff. And he forgot about it for 20, 30 years, you know? And then one day he wakes up and he goes, holy crap, this all happened to me. And I haven't thought about it for my entire life. You know, he's a grown man, he's 40 years old. And it sent him off the edge, right? Like it all came back. And what happens is then you kind of become a little bit manic, you become a little bit psychic, and you know, it just absolutely broke him. Yeah.
There's a lot going there too. There's a article I read back in the 90s, I think, called "Remembering Satan," where a whole community of people remembered satanic rituals and things. Eyewitness testimony is the least reliable but most believed form of evidence.
100%. Yeah.
And memory is a very malleable thing and very, very weird, right? It is relatively simple and straightforward to help people remember things that never happened. So in my line of work, knowing that people remember a show that I've never done, they come up to me afterwards explaining how wonderful that thing that I didn't do was.
Wow.
Oh, when you did that thing with the stuff and the thing, well, that was incredible. That's like 10 minutes after the show's done. And they're already remembering it in a much different way than anything I could ever be possible of doing.
Wow. So that's
just 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody has forgotten something for 20 years, I'm going to go on the record that it is entirely possible that that is an accurate memory. Mm-hmm. My level of doubt would be right up there too, because it's memory and eyewitness testimony, decades out of date, that could have been helped in any number of ways. Like we could spend a lifetime talking about how people remember the wrong things. So I
So you're saying it might not have actually happened?
I believe that he believes it's real.
Of course.
I also believe that it might have happened. It's also a really good chance that it never did.